Hey, it's Pete Cohen here. I'm in Slovakia and I'm delighted to tell you about episode 131 of the My 365 podcast series with the amazing Josie Benson. Now, I didn't know who Josie Benson was until recently. A couple of people I know went to hear her speak and said, Pete, you have got to do a podcast with this lady. She is incredible. She is someone who took up marathon running at a later age in her life and has run multiple marathons as well as running a jungle marathon. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and run a jungle marathon, but life is, it's not just a marathon, it's actually a series of sprints within a marathon. That's how I look at it. And her story will really, really inspire you of how she found something in herself to do great things, and that something is in all of us. So enjoy it. Remember, all of our podcasts are brought to you by My365 Elite. Check out My365 Elite at mi365.me/elite and see what world-class coaching can do for you. But for now, enjoy the interview with the incredible Josie Benson. It's Pete Cohen. Will you join me for another My365 podcast? I'm so excited. My guest today is Josie Benson. Josie, how are you?
I'm very well. Yes, very good.
Brilliant.
It was my birthday yesterday.
Many happy returns.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk about you because and to share your story, because a couple of people contacted me recently and said, you have got to speak to this lady.
Yeah.
And they're people who, when they say something like that, okay, all right. So I Googled you and then I saw you running in a jungle. And you are quite well known for jungle marathons.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you love to do.
So, well, I love running marathons. I turned 46 yesterday.
Wow.
And 6 years ago, when I was 40, I'd never been, an elite athlete, never run marathons, never even run a 10K. And I was on one of those kind of like drinking weekends in Brighton. And I came out of the hotel, very hungover. And there were thousands of people running past and they were running the Brighton Marathon. Mm-hmm. And it really moved me, just kind of watching the expression on their faces and, people running with limbs missing and, really old people running and people in amazing costumes. And I said, I want to be part of that. So I signed up, ran the Brighton Marathon.
What, the following year?
Yes. And at the time, when I did my first marathon, I was in a production of Sweeney Todd with Imelda Staunton and Michael Bull. And the whole cast was so supportive. And I was running for the NSPCC. And I loved it so much, I became addicted. And I've since run 30 marathons and ultras.
Wow.
And I just can't stop running marathons.
Wow. So you're also a personal trainer as well.
I'm a personal trainer, Josie Benson Personal Training.
Wow. So we'll definitely make sure people will start following you, because I'm sure you will. You're an incredibly inspiring person.
Thank you.
But what is it that do you think that you saw in running marathons that made you think, I want to do that?
It was that sort of sense of just kind of every day-to-day sort of, going through the motions, family, work, walking the dog. It's all great, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And I wanted to really sort of push myself to the limit in order to really feel alive. I think when you're close to death, then you really feel alive, if that makes sense.
Well, no,
you feel like you're close to death when you hit the wall.
Yeah.
Which is for me always mile 17, when I feel like, oh my God, my body's given up and the only thing that's keeping me going is my mind, and that feeling just gives me immense kind of euphoria. And at the end of each marathon, I feel like I'm reborn.
I think we are all designed to experience some sort of difficulty, to come through the difficulty and have this wonderful sense of being alive.
Yeah.
But we also have that thing in our brain, don't we, that goes, well, I don't know what that is. That looks difficult. I don't want to do it.
Yes.
And I'm so fascinated that someone who was living a life and realizing that you were doing what a lot of other people were doing and maybe should be happy but feel like something was missing, and then looked at marathon running and thought, okay, maybe that's something that can give me something that I wasn't experiencing in my life. And do the marathons get better? Does the feeling get more intense? You know, now that how many have you done now? You say 30?
So I've done 30.
Yeah, and you're about to do London in a few weeks.
I'm going to do the London again, which I think will be the 4th or 5th time I've done the London Marathon. And so that'll be my 31st marathon. But in 2014, well, let's go back a bit further. So at around 2013, I Googled, world's toughest, most dangerous marathon. Because I thought, right, let me really go for it now. And I saw something called Jungle Marathon. And it said, you will be running deep within jaguar territory in the Amazon jungle in Brazil. You will run over 170 miles. You'll be running, in dense jungle territory, caiman, anacondas, jaguars. You'll be swimming through 200 metre crossings.
That. Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, it's obviously not for me. That's for, special people, elite people.
Yeah. Really crazy people.
Yeah. And then a year later, I was like, do you know what? It's now or never. Just do it. Go for it. And I was running Davas Youth Club at the time, which is one of Wandsworth's largest youth clubs. And I wanted to raise money for the young people there. So I thought, well, run Jungle Marathon, raise a load of money, and hopefully survive. And I came out winning female, miraculously,
And it was the first one you've done. What do you put that down to, the fact that you won? Was it the fact that you didn't have any
blisters.
Really? No blisters?
Luck.
Luck. Well, do you think it has something to do with what you say to yourself? Because I think one of the things I'm most fascinated about you, and obviously I've met you a couple of times, but it's the conversations that you have with yourself. I'm fascinated to find out. It would be amazing, right, if we had like a megaphone that would send out what we're actually saying to ourselves. Because I know a lot of people, and I'm in part of that, I give myself a hard time from time to time, but I've got another voice inside me that goes, you got to do this. You've got to...
Yeah, so definitely.
Give me a snapshot of what it's like to be inside your head.
Well, let's go back to when I was wading through a swamp.
Yeah.
So mud up to my knees. The guy behind me, his trainers kept coming off in the jungle because the swamp was literally sucking off his trainers. And I'm just like wading through. And I stopped and just shouted out loud, come on! Lots of swear words.
Yeah.
Bleep, bleep, bleep.
Yeah.
Just do it! Just get to the other side! And I suddenly just zoomed off ahead of them. And amazing. I think you can do that in everyday life.
Because it seems like that's one of the things that you're most passionate about, is helping other people deal with that voice in their head, that the voice goes, you can do it.
Yeah.
Tell us what you are passionate about. Tell us what you stand for every day.
Well, I'm really passionate about women owning their age and not being embarrassed of their age.
Yeah, we were talking about that before.
It's all right for you guys.
Yeah.
You say your age with pride, but women, it's like, shh, don't, why are you hiding it?
Yeah.
Own it, be proud. You've earned those years.
But you see, it's brilliant because you own it, because you've invested into your age, right? By getting better. I mean, to say that you're 46, I had no idea, right? I would have thought you were much younger than that, but you have invested into yourself. So this is who you are, and you look great because of it. And I think maybe sometimes people don't want to say how old they are because, I don't know, it's a fascinating thing. I think it's a sexist thing as well. It is very sexist. It's like men, it's Mr. Yeah. But we have to let people know if we're married or not. So you're really... And if you put MS, it's like, oh, she's just got an attitude. Yeah, absolutely. But I like the way you're talking about this with a smile on your face, right? Yeah. I don't take the whole running thing too seriously either. And I never look at the course. I've run over 30 marathons. I've never looked at the course. Amazing. Just see it on the internet. Oh, that looks nice. Sign up for that. Pay the £30, turn up. I don't know what the course is like. I love that also.
You know?
You're part of your philosophy is just about turn up.
Don't take it too seriously. I don't. I'm not one of these runners, who've got the watch clocking my time and
so on your gravestone it might say something like I turned up or something like that.
Yes, I like that.
What would you say? What would you imagine? You come to the end of your life. How would you want to be remembered by people?
Just go for it. Put one foot in front of the other.
And keep going. Put one foot in the other.
Something like that. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background, because I know you had an interesting childhood, right? You were adopted. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So I was adopted when I was 6 months old, by a very liberal, loving white couple, who didn't see colour.
Yeah.
They just saw this cute baby. And then they got home and realised, oh, she's mixed race. You know? And my little brother at the time said, Mum, take it back. Take the baby back.
Really? How old was your little brother?
He was 5. Yeah. He was 5 years old.
Why do you think he was to take it back? Because what?
Well, he thought it was this little toy that was there for a bit, but then he realised, oh, she's here for life. You know?
Yeah.
So I was adopted when I was 6 months old, and then when I was 13, discovered that my birth mother was living round the corner.
Wow. How did you find that out?
Well, when I was 13, I sneaked into my adoptive mum's room and nicked my birth certificate.
Yeah.
And there was only...
I have to write something down. Carry on.
Yeah, but it's my book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was only one of my surnames.
Yeah.
So I phoned it up. I said, hi, yeah, it's me. It's your daughter. And that was it.
Wow. How old were you?
13.
So, well, that's a very impressionable age, right?
And it's a miracle. People always say, miracles don't happen, but they do, because it happened to me. And what's wonderful is that my birth mother and my adoptive mum, they both love each other so much, because they both appreciate what each of them has done, which has given them me, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
And sometimes I get everybody together, for dinner or whatever, and it's just wonderful. You've got, Nigerian people, you've got English people, and everyone gets on so well.
Yes. I think that's part of who you are. So it's very interesting. So tell me, why were you adopted? Do you know why?
Well, it was very difficult back then, back in the 60s and the 70s. And my mum was very young, and she did the best she could, and she felt that putting me up for adoption would give me the best opportunity in life, which it did. I've had wonderful...
so what was that like? Because I'm again, my background as a psychologist, so interesting to work out why people are the way that they are and how what's happened to them has shaped them. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so if you were brought up by a white family and you're mixed race, what was that like? I mean, were you questioning yourself?
I went through that whole thing of who am I?
Yeah.
Identity crisis. I came home one day and said to my white dad, "You're the devil.
Yeah.
I'm in the Nation of Islam now.
Yeah.
And you're the devil."
Yeah. What did he say?
And bless him, and this is how wonderful my parents are, he just sort of rolled his eyes and said, "Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
What do you want for dinner?"
Yeah.
And that was, that phase. But I think the bigger picture is that it's made me very open and able to get on with anyone, really. And that's very much who my mum and dad are.
That's an amazing story, because I think you could have two people go through the same sort of experience, and the experience can be the making of them, which it clearly is, or it can be the complete opposite. But you seem to have something deep within your psychology where I'm going to make the most of this. I'm going to make the most of this opportunity. So you went to school, obviously.
Yes, some of the time.
Some of the time, right? And if you were going to look back now, if you could have looked forwards as a 15 or 16-year-old, do you think you have any idea that you would have ended up doing what you're doing now in terms of running marathons and inspiring other people? Do you think it was always in you, this greatness? Do you think even back then you knew it?
I think I always sort of wanted to be on some sort of a platform.
Yeah.
I started off wanting to be a lawyer, and my granny I said, Granny, I want to be a lawyer, and she said, oh, no. Probably better you're an actress. Stick to that.
Yes.
Which kind of started off that voice of self-doubt that I wasn't quite good enough.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I left it a year before I signed up for Jungle Marathon, because I thought it's not really for someone like me, So what I like to do is to inspire people to kind of activate change in their mind, and try and eliminate that little voice of self-doubt.
Yeah. Because it's always there, right?
It is always there.
Because I think sometimes people think they can get rid of that, but it's always going to be there. And I love what you said there about, being impressionable. And we said your auntie, right? And said, don't do that, do this. And it sowed a seed of maybe I'm not good enough.
Yes.
But you've obviously overcome that voice. So tell me about some of the marathons. So what's been the most difficult marathon that you've done so far?
Well, definitely the toughest was Jungle Marathon, because you'd wake up every day at about 5 a.m. You'd have to pack up your hammock, your clothes, your food, put it all in the rucksack, which was sort of 10 to 12 kg, put that on your back, and then run or hike or crawl at least 30 miles a day.
So hang on, Jungle Marathon, how long was that marathon?
Well, you're doing a marathon a day for 6 days, but on day 3 you do 2 marathons.
Right, so I hope everyone heard that. Can you just say that again, please? It's not a jungle marathon or one marathon, it's done. Just say that again.
So you're doing a marathon a day for 6 days.
Yeah.
But on day 3, you do 2 marathons, which is the norm for multi-stage races.
Yeah.
That's what's called the long stage.
And how many marathons had you done before that?
Before that, I'd probably done about, I'd say about 20, 15,
yeah,
20.
But never done any ultra marathons. And have you...
I'd done a few ultras.
Wow. Yes,
which most of them were, it's a wonderful organisation called Endurance for Life.
Yeah.
And they do coastal ultras, really beautiful scenery, but they are brutal, really brutal. I mean, you're just in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by all these elite runners,
I did a podcast, one of the first ones we did with Joe DeSana. Joe DeSana is the founder of Spartan Races, and they have a number of races, and one of their races is called the Death Race. And if you want to do that, I could send him a message, and I'm sure you could get on it. It's one of these races where 3/4 of the field don't finish. If you want to do that, because it's not what you know, right? It's who you know. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there, but then you might throw it back at me and go, yeah, I'll do it if you do it.
Now.
Well, anyway, so let's. How many times do you think when you were doing that marathon,
yes,
that you felt like giving up? And you just felt
never.
Like, really?
Never. I never. Well, actually, tell a lie. At the end of the long stage, I did collapse on the beach. My friend Amy Gasson, who was another British competitor, we were together. We'd just run, I don't know, 40 miles, something like that. And I collapsed on the beach and I said, Amy, I've got nothing. I was crying my eyes out. I said, I've got nothing left. I'm not going on, can't do it. And she picked me up and she said, we're British. Come on, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And we got through it. And then finished the rest of the week.
So how it... Wow.
But I just had, no nutrition in me, seriously dehydrated, really, really bad aching muscles, and I just collapsed.
So that's really great, because that's another example, I suppose, of the recipe of success is having people around you that
definitely
will inspire you even when you feel like giving up.
Yes. Hence me being a personal trainer.
Yes. Yeah. So when did you get into personal training?
So I've always I've always started running groups and I've always trained people. But in terms of actually getting legally qualified, that was about just under a year ago.
Yeah. Wow. So you're fully qualified. I've been watching you on Instagram, actually, and everyone should follow you on Instagram. I watched you doing some dance moves where everyone else was sweating. They had no idea what you were doing, but there were some good moves going on there. So you're doing this jungle marathon, and there's one point when you feel like giving up, and then you carried on. You didn't have that again. It's like you learned the lesson.
That was it then. And also because I kind of had, after that, I kind of thought I might actually be the winning female after day 3.
Why?
Because I clocked up the times, and there was kind of whispers around the camp. Oh, Josie might actually be, and so that motivates you even more. And then you're thinking about the people back home. I'm thinking about my children. I want to make them proud. Thinking about my dog.
Wow. So tell me about your children. How old are your children?
So I've got twins.
Wow. Not
and they're men now, so they're 23.
Wow.
Non-identical.
So tell me what do they think about you?
Well, normally their normal thing to say when I finish a marathon, I come home, trainers are all muddy and I've got my medal and I'm like, I did it, boys. So did you win? Well, no, I didn't actually win. Yeah. They're like, well done, but try and win next time. So they've got this kind of tough,
But they must look up to you, right, as a role model, right?
I hope they do. Yeah.
So of all these marathons, tell me about some of the biggest learnings that have really come out for it. It sounds like obviously one of those is realising there's always more than what you think there is.
Yeah.
Is that one of the biggest learnings for you?
I'd say one of the biggest learners is don't let the fact that you're getting older mean that you have to slow down.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was doing the Stevenage marathon once, years ago, and it's like this, really hilly, goes on, and it's self-navigated, which I hate. They give you a map. And when you're tired, you can't read a map. When you've done like 20 miles, you're like,
oh no, you didn't get lost as well.
Yes, took the wrong turning and I had people following me. But that always happens, self-navigated, Anyway, so I'm at, I don't know, say mile 17 probably, when I always hit the wall. Was struggling a lot, and this guy ran alongside me, and he was like, "You all right?" And I was like, "No, I'm in a lot of pain." And he just started, talking to me about, running and what have you. And I noticed he looked quite elderly. I said, "How old are you?" He said, 78. This is my 200th or something marathon. He was in the 100 marathon club. And I was so inspired and in awe of him.
Yeah.
78, and he'd done over 200 marathons. And he was so, upbeat. And he kept me going for about half an hour. We just chatted. And then he ran off. And,
And left a big impression on you, right?
Yes, and a big gap.
And that's what you want to do, right? You want to leave an impression for people to...
Definitely.
I get this overwhelming feeling that you are all about helping people feel alive.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think most people know when they're most alive, when they're not well. For most people, when they got a cold or they're feeling sick. Like I was, as I told you before, and I was in Vegas recently, I was sick for 24 hours. My God, did I feel alive. I mean, not in a positive way, but I was aware of everything that was going on. But it's amazing, isn't it? We have this opportunity to feel alive, but there is a price to pay for that, right? Whether it's meditating, you've still got to pay the price of sitting and closing your eyes to access this feeling.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you might have to put yourself through a bit of discomfort.
Yeah.
In terms of exercising, to make yourself feel alive. But I would encourage everyone who hasn't maybe done it before, just put on your trainers, get out there and try running.
Yeah.
Give it a go. It's wonderful for helping with, depression, lifting your mood. And it's obviously got all of those incredible health benefits.
Yeah,
and we were all born to run.
Yes.
And because we live such, different lives now than we lived hundreds and hundreds of years ago. We spend so much time on our iPads and our phones, and it really breaks my heart that children aren't exercising enough as well, because they're constantly on their phones or on their iPads.
Yes.
And take your kids out, go for a run. There's so many wonderful park runs in this country, especially we're coming up to running season now. Well, we're in it.
So the hardest thing to do, isn't it, is just to get started, I suppose, because people think, oh, I'm not a runner, or oh, it's too cold, or this or that. How do you combat? I mean, you obviously gave us an example of that, of giving yourself a real stern talking to.
Yes.
Because some people believe that they've got a duck in their head or a chimp or something that nags away at them.
Yeah.
But this is something we've been talking about recently, about the Romans believed that you have a genius in you and you're born with a genius, and it's the spirit in you that will guide you and move you in the direction that you need to go. But most of us don't listen to that. We think we're not a genius. We don't think we're good enough. But you seem like you striving to live life for the fullest you can possibly. So do you look for moments every day to feel alive?
I mean, like I said before, I don't take it too seriously. I like my glass of port.
Yeah.
I like my pack of crisps. I like my Netflix. Yeah. So love yourself as well. Don't take it too seriously.
Yes.
But always look out for those angels, because they're everywhere. When I run marathons, there's always an angel. You're always struggling, and something. When I was in the jungle, there were always these tropical butterflies which would suddenly flutter in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's a sign. Something's going on here that would keep me going. Or when I did the Stevenage Marathon, when I met Danny, the 78-year-old, that was an angel. Yeah. He kept me going.
Yes.
And it might be you're walking down the street and it's just a random stranger who smiles at you, and it makes you feel better that day.
We've been talking on My365 with our elite members. We've been talking about mindfulness and meditation, and I was reading about someone who is a teacher, and she said mindfulness is just noticing new things. And sometimes it takes us to do things we don't normally do to really notice new things, right?
Yeah.
And that's like our minds get stimulated by pushing ourselves, seeing things differently, and that's what you're kind of saying, right?
Yes,
live life,
definitely.
use your senses, stimulate the senses, challenge yourself. It could be anything, right? It doesn't have to be marathon running, but
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I mean, you could be. You might want to draw, you might want to, paint, or you might want to plant some seeds in your garden, and, just go for it.
Yes. So tell us about where you want to be. What's next for you? So you're doing the London Marathon.
So I'm doing the London Marathon, and I'm running for an organisation called Groundwork London, and I've been working on the gangs prevention team. So I'm running to raise money for young people in London, so that they can get involved in really good, positive projects and what have you. Because
that it's almost like it's so important, but it's harder than ever, right? To get children who are even more disconnected than I think they've ever been, to get them to connect. That's what you're trying to do, right? Get them to connect to what? To being alive, I suppose. Yeah,
and just to something positive that's going to, push them and give them a better future.
Yeah.
Hopefully get them trained. Or inspire them to start educating themselves, further education.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what's happening after that?
So I'm doing an event on Saturday, May the 12th.
Yes.
It's at 2:30, and it's at HIT Gym in West Hampstead.
Yes.
And it's for anyone who wants to get involved in fitness, who maybe has been thinking about it but just needs that push.
Yeah.
So they come along, and I'm going to take them through an extreme high intensity interval training session.
Yes, get them to do something which maybe they didn't think they could do.
Yes, but I don't want to scare people. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to talk about my experiences in the jungle and why I started running marathons at an older age, and how anyone can do it. If I did it, anyone can do it, honestly.
Yeah. Yes.
And then we're going to have a wonderful yoga session afterwards.
So you do yoga as well?
Relax. That's going to be a very good friend of mine, Christiane Robinson,
who
is an amazing yoga teacher, and she's going to be, putting people through their paces and getting them.
So that's something. How do people find out about that?
So that's going to be on Eventbrite.
We'll put the link in the show notes so people can find out about that. And how else do people find out about you? How can they follow you or go
follow
running?
me on Instagram.
Yes.
Benson.Josie.
Benson.Josie. Go and check it out.
And you can also link me on Facebook, Josie Benson.
Yeah.
And I'm also on Twitter,
Yeah.
Josie Benson.
So if you want to be inspired, follow Josie. Go and Google Josie Benson jungle running. You can see there's a few films with you running in the jungle.
Josie Benson jungle marathon. Have a look on YouTube. It's a lovely video.
Yeah, I'm going to go and run a jungle marathon. But
you should.
Thank you so much. It's been really,
it's been lovely.
really enlightening, and I really appreciate your time. I look forward to running the Spartan death race with you. I'll put you in contact with Joe DeSana. Would you like that?
Definitely, yeah. Maybe this is the next big one.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.